Hi, everyone. We're going to give a few minutes for other people to log on. We'll probably start about 6:05 unless we see nobody else logging on.
Can we wave to friends that we see in the audience?
Yes, we can wave to friends. Yeah, I'll give it to like at 6:03. If no one additional logs on, we won't have these folks waiting. Actually, we just had some more, so we might give it to 6:05. Actually, on our, I believe Mike on the flyer does say 6:05. It says 6:05. So to be fair, we'll wait till 6:05. So we appreciate your patience. Hi, if you just joined, we're going to wait till we'll start at 6:05. We're just waiting for some people as people are logging on. Hi, welcome. For those who just joined, we're going to start at 6:05. We're just giving a few minutes for some people to log on. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We'll get started now. This is the Amphibian Crossing Waterloo Road project located in Byram Township, Sussex County, New Jersey, sponsored by State of New Jersey Department of Treasury, Division of Property Management and Construction, known as DPMC. This is part of a Transportation Alternative Programs project. Our virtual public information center this evening is for our final design phase, and it'll run from 6 to 8 p.m. If more people log on, we will repeat our presentation at about 7 o'clock. If they don't, it'll just be this one presentation. The presentation is being recorded and will be posted on DEP's website. We'll show that information. Thanks for your patience. I'd like to introduce the panelists. My name is Denise Secunia from NV5. We're the design consultant. Mackenzie.
Hi there, I'm Mackenzie Hall from New Jersey Fish and Wildlife's Endangered and Non-Game Species Program.
Mike.
Good evening. My name is Mike Kyler, NV5 Highways Department.
Fred.
Hi, my name is Fred Scherer with NV5, and I'm a water resource and environmental specialist.
Yeah, thanks. So as you said, we'll do our presentation and we'll follow it up by questions and answers. To the right on the screen there, you'll see where there's a question box. During the webinar, you could type in any questions or comments. Post-meeting comments and questions can be received through Thursday, June 1st. We typically do a 2-week comment period. We ask that you submit them to Mackenzie Hall, biologist, endangered and non-game program with NJDEP Fish and Wildlife. Mackenzie's email, that would be the preferred format, is mackenzie.hall@dep.newjersey.gov. If you do want to send anything, and not by email and by regular mail, her address is P.O. Box 394 in Lebanon, New Jersey, 08833. Also, if you go to DEP's website there, the link is there under New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Conservation. There is a page with the Waterloo Road Amphibian Crossing Project, and it's set up that you could type in your questions and comments. We'll receive them and then get back to you. So just a project status before we get into why we're here. I see some of the attendees did join us during the design phase. May 4th, 2021, we did have a virtual public information center during the design phase. We reviewed the proposed project and the improvements, the material, and the comment resolution summary was posted on DEP's website. We had that 2-week comment period. This will follow a similar format. Since then, we've continued to advance design. We've had ongoing coordination with our project team. We've also coordinated with Sussex County, NJDEP, and NJDOT. Right-of-way agreements have been secured. There's a memo of agreement between NJDEP and Sussex County, and the environmental permitting, which we'll go over again later on in the presentation, but we've advanced several. We've received the main environmental document is what's called a categorical exclusion document when you're using federal funds, which this project will use federal funds. That was approved last May. We've coordinated with New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office. We've received those approvals and any other recommendations, which we'll review. The Highlands Preservation Area General Permit 1, we received that authorization this February. What's called no net loss from DEP for reforestation. It was determined that it was not applicable. So tree clearings that we have, we don't have to go back and replant. What we are still coordinating with New Jersey DEP Division of Land Resource Protection is one additional permit, general permit number 1, and that is in progress. So what I'd like to do now is hand it over to Mackenzie to show how we got here, why there's a need in action to protect amphibians at this unique site. So I'll hand it over to Mackenzie to talk about that.
Hey, thanks, Denise. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see some friends in the audience and some longtime supporters of these amphibian crossings. And before we get right into the Waterloo Road project, similar to last time for folks who were here, we just wanted to give a kind of quick, broad overview of amphibians because they are secret little animals that tend to go unnoticed and often a bit underappreciated. It's amazing, by the way, that our previous PIC was almost exactly 2 years ago during Amphibian Week, and we just celebrated another Amphibian Week. So here we are again, and much closer to this project being finalized at this point. So yeah, just to recap, we've got about 34 different species of salamanders, frogs, and toads in New Jersey. Some are more familiar than others, like the American toad that you might see hopping around your yard. Also those spring peepers that are making quite a ruckus at this time of year from water bodies. A lot of people hear them but don't even realize that they're listening to tiny 1-inch long tree frogs making all that sound. Right here in the middle of the screen is a spotted salamander, and these are kind of the poster child for our amphibian crossing project. Most people have never seen these stocky 7-inch long salamanders because most of the time they're living underground in small rodent burrows or in rock fissures, and they really only make a big showing on land once a year, and that's during their springtime migration, which I'll talk more about in a minute. And Mike, if you can hit the next button. I had some other, there we go. There's a few of our other salamanders and frogs and toads. In terms of the ecosystem role, if you could just hit back once, Mike, to show those little faces again. In terms of the ecosystem role of amphibians, they're a really big part of the food chain and the forest nutrient cycle. You may be surprised that acre for acre of forest, amphibians outnumber and outweigh birds. In fact, the redback salamander, which is pictured there in the bottom right, they're one of the single most common animals out in our forests. Amphibians are mostly carnivorous. They eat a whole variety of insects, worms, slugs, spiders, and in turn, they are eaten by a lot of bigger animals, from turtles and snakes to songbirds, herons, owls, and all sorts of mammals. Amphibians help to keep a healthy leaf layer in the forest, which helps to hold carbon in the soil, which is a big deal these days when we're concerned about climate change. And as most people do know, their moist absorbent skin makes amphibians very sensitive to pollutants, and that means that they're very good bioindicators of environmental quality. Next. Okay, vernal pools are an essential part of our story here because certain amphibians, like that spotted salamander, the Jefferson salamander, and the wood frog, rely on these temporary ponds for breeding. Vernal pools are special because they're full of water in the springtime. So this time of year, they're full of water, but usually they dry out by late summer. So the important thing there is that fish can't live in them, and that makes them extra great nurseries for amphibians. But at the same time, the amphibian eggs and then the larvae are kind of in a race against time to grow up, metamorphose, and leave the pool before the water is gone. And that urgency is why most vernal pool breeding amphibians make what we call explosive migrations down to the water in early spring as soon as the ground thaws, and they get some early warm rainy nights. Next. Okay, I think my animations aren't working, but there were a couple photos. So here is the Waterloo Road site. There is a significant vernal pool inside Waterloo Village with a whole diverse community of life that revolves around it. A huge number of amphibians migrate to this breeding pool every spring from the surrounding forests, like the arrows there show. And they've done that for centuries, but the modern twist is that now there's a fairly busy road they have to cross in order to reach the water, and again, to get back to the forest. And as you might expect, amphibians don't fare so well against traffic. We know from previous studies that just 15 vehicles per hour traveling through an amphibian migration can kill more than half of all the amphibians that are trying to cross the road. And at Waterloo, we can have more than 100 vehicles per hour during migration events, including a lot more Amazon trucks the past couple of years, as some of you are aware. So there's a real concern here that the population could be wiped out over time without action. But on the positive side, this stretch of Waterloo Road is bordered on both sides by state preserved land, with Alamuchee State Forest to the north and Waterloo Village to the south. And that makes it a really great candidate for the Wildlife Passage project that we're going to describe. Next. All right, and again, there's just extraordinary amphibian population here to protect. Mike, if you hit the next arrow, I think the data will pop up. There we go. I tried to be all fancy and animate these in, but I don't think that worked out.
That's doing it.
Okay. So this data comes from our colleagues at the Conserve Wildlife Foundation, a couple of whom are here watching the presentation, and some volunteers as well who have helped with these migration time surveys. They've done these nighttime migration surveys at Waterloo Road since 2012, and more than 20,000 salamanders and frogs have been recorded through the crossing zone. At times, it's been more than 300 of them per hour crossing just this quarter-mile stretch of road. We have monitored a lot of other sites. We've mapped dozens of sites kind of like this across the northern half of New Jersey, but the Waterloo Road crossing is our most significant crossing that we're aware of, and combined with the high number of species of concern and the amount of traffic at this location, it's our #1 priority site for conservation. We did consider some different options on how to protect these amphibians long term. Obviously, having people out on the road on rainy nights to help them across is not sustainable, and it's also not ideal in terms of safety either. Road detours do work great in some places, like the road in East Brunswick, New Jersey, that gets closed down on rainy spring nights every year. But that's not really a practical option for Waterloo because a detour would be very long. It would be difficult to coordinate across different jurisdictions and most likely pretty unpopular because of the amount of traffic that this road sees. So we chose to pursue a wildlife tunnel system that will let the amphibians and other animals too cross safely back and forth below the road whenever they need to do so, which is a far better long-term solution and no heroics needed. Okay, next. And these are some additional photos just showing animals on migration across the roadway, some of the different cast of characters, if you will. And the next slide, Mike. And what the action looks like during an evening migration event. I think these are some photos that Denise took. Okay, and next. One update since our previous public info session is that we've come to realize that there's quite a lot of other roadkill that happens on Waterloo Road as well. There have been some daily roadkill surveys through the spring and summer months, and we've also happened upon some roadkill later in the season that have been documented, particularly snakes. There have been a couple times when we've been out along the site and seen 40 or more dead on the road snakes in a single visit. This seems to happen especially in the spring and the fall when snakes too are moving between seasonal habitats. But there are turtles, small mammals, and a variety of other wildlife that have also been found dead on the road in this section, and the road crossing system will help a lot of these other small animals to cross the road too. Okay, next. All right, and before leaving the background slides, I just wanted to mention that this Waterloo Road project fits into a much bigger picture too. We all probably know that New Jersey is one of the most developed and road-dense states in the whole country. Roads make it convenient for us busy people to get around, but it's making it harder and harder for animals to get where they need to go. New Jersey's trying to tackle habitat connectivity and road conflicts on a more statewide scale through this project called Change, or Connecting Habitat Across New Jersey. If you go to the website, it's change.nj.gov, and we've got some great tools, including an interactive map where you can look at a whole bunch of different wildlife road crossing projects that have been done all over New Jersey so far. There's even a new web app that you can find on that web page called the New Jersey Wildlife Tracker, and that is for the public to use to submit rare or endangered wildlife sightings, as well as now roadkill observations that will help us to pinpoint other areas of need. And next. Okay, and this was the last slide from me on the background of this story, and Denise will explain more about the grant and the process. But our amphibian tunnel project construction is being funded by a grant called the Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP for short. TAP is a Federal Highway Administration program that New Jersey DOT manages for our state, and the whole program is simply about funding non-traditional transportation type projects like pedestrian lanes, rails to trails, street beautification, historic preservation. And then this sort of seventh category is all about reducing vehicle-caused wildlife mortality or restoring habitat connectivity. So that is the perfect fit for our Waterloo Road project. So our New Jersey Fish and Wildlife applied for a TAP grant back in 2016, and we were awarded a $503,000 grant to construct the project, a number which has gone up in the meantime, as Denise has and will continue to point out. But a really neat thing is that our project will be the first wildlife project funded by TAP in New Jersey, so kind of a neat superlative here. And the box there at the bottom, I just wanted to point out we've had a lot of support and input from a variety of different people, and the list has grown a lot longer since I initially even created this, but just wanted to recognize some of the folks who have been really instrumental in getting us to this point. Particularly want to point out that because the road itself belongs to Sussex County, their engineers have been really helpful making sure that we're designing a project that can actually be built on their roadway once it's designed. The Conserve Wildlife Foundation, like I mentioned before, has supplied all of the data, which is why this project even exists in the first place. Another person from the list that I wanted to point out is Tom Langton. So in the US, there haven't been many projects quite like this yet, but there have been a bunch in different parts of the world. And Tom is an expert on amphibian tunnels who has built a lot of them, and very early in this, in this conceptual stage, I guess, he helped a lot with kind of sketching out a design and giving us a lot of confidence that our crossing system will work once it's built. So lots more people to thank than I can spend time on right now. And the list, like I said, continues to grow. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Denise from NV5 to talk about our design.
Thanks, Mackenzie. So yeah, through DOT, it's the Division of Local Aid. They administer federal funds. So we coordinate with them because they would administer the federal funds. So as Mackenzie said, we need a permanent solution. So the permanent solution at this location was to construct an amphibian passage system along about a 1,200-foot section of Waterloo Road, which is County Route 604. It's adjacent to Alamucci Mountain State Park and Waterloo Village in Byram Township, as we discussed. This long-term solution to vehicle-caused mortality threatening a significant population of amphibians that will continue to use this area to migrate to the nearby vernal pool. As Mackenzie stated, their habitat is in the Alamucci Mountain State Park. They have to cross the county route to get to the vernal pools, and then they go back and return. So this is more of a permanent solution. Next few graphics will show really where we're located. Most of you may know where Waterloo Village is, but the projects extend along Waterloo Road between milepost 6.2 and 6.42. We're east of Interstate 80 and east of Waterloo Village Road, where the entrance is. So what's shown there on the right. The next slide will show, just really kind of show existing conditions. To the right is Alamucci State Park, where you have the mountainside. To the left is Waterloo Village. So they have to cross Waterloo Road in order to get to the vernal pool on the other side. You can just go through some of these slides. Again, this is the picture of the vernal pool. So our back would be facing Waterloo Road. This is looking towards the pool and Waterloo Village on the opposite side of the pool. So our proposal is for 4 specialized amphibian tunnels, and we'll go through and show what they would look like. The tunnels have been widened since the last Public Information Center. As Mackenzie said, we talked to some of the experts, and originally in the grant, they were proposed to be 2 feet wide by 3 feet high due to additional species and the area we're proposing now. These are interior dimensions. 5 feet wide by 3 foot high would be the tunnels. There'd be 4 of them, and we'll show where they're at. And then there'll be an installation of guide fencing on both sides of the roadway to intercept and funnel the amphibians towards the tunnels. I'm gonna hand it over now to Mike Kylar, and he'll kind of walk through the plans and show a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Denise. All right, the graphic shown on the proposed improvements included in the project. And during this meeting, if anyone has any questions, we actually have a full set of the plans that we can pull up to zoom in and look at the details. So the 4 proposed amphibian tunnels and concrete head walls are shown in red. The proposed pavement within County Route 604 Waterloo Road is shown in blue near the proposed tunnels. The proposed amphibian fencing and underground infiltration areas along the fence are shown in yellow. And the proposed limit of grading associated with the tunnels, which would be right along here, is shown in green. So for this graphic, it shows a typical amphibian tunnel crossing Waterloo Road and the Alamuchee State Park and the existing slope on the left side, and the Waterloo Village and the vernal pond are shown on the right side. And unlike similar amphibian tunnels that we've seen, the proposed tunnels will be located beneath the pavement box of Waterloo Road. So that's a requirement of Sussex County. So the proposed tunnels will consist of precast reinforced concrete with an internal width of 5 feet to accommodate the amphibians and snakes in the area, a 3-foot internal height with a 6-inch native substrate of soil from the area. And then on the other end of the tunnels, there'll be an opening in the precast tunnel segment with a NJDOT Type E inlet on top. And this is being installed to allow more natural light to enter the ends of the tunnels. So the amphibians will be inclined to use the tunnel to travel between Alamuchee State Park and the vernal pools on the other side.
And Mike, just an E inlet is an inlet without a curb piece. So it's just an open grate.
And then up top on the graphic is the wildlife fencing that we'll cover on the next slide. So on each end of the proposed tunnel will feature a precast reinforced concrete head wall that'll have the proposed wildlife fencing edges start from the wing wall heading outward. And then for the proposed head walls on the Waterloo Village side of the road, concrete coloration treatment will be used for State Historic Preservation Office requirements. So we'll tint it either dark color or brown. And to help differentiate the amphibian tunnels from drainage culverts, since this is a county road, each side of the amphibian tunnel will have a sign shown on the right side of the slide. These signs describe the intent of the tunnels for the seasonal migrations in the area. And then as for the wildlife fencing, the proposed fencing included in this project that was shown in yellow on the previous graphics has been determined during field visits with DEP and ND5 staff to follow the topographical areas throughout the project, to avoid existing trees and ground features, and to keep the path for amphibians moving consistent. So the fencing itself consists of a semicircular pattern with compacted soil on the convex side, which allows amphibians to walk on top of the fence and land within the guided area that'll head towards the tunnels. One example manufacturer that's being shown on the slide is ACO, which is what we're probably leaning towards. And in addition, A stone under drain trench will be included at regular intervals to allow the stormwater to infiltrate back into the ground. So instead of the stormwater being concentrated and pushed towards the tunnel, it'll have the chance to get back into the ground. And then as for construction staging, following coordination with Sussex County, the proposed improvements will be constructed in 2 phases to avoid road closures and a lengthy detour. The proposed improvements shown in stages 1 and 2. So for stage 1, will include half of the precast amphibian tunnels along the Waterloo Road eastbound travel lane and the proposed head wall and wildlife fencing heading into Waterloo Village. In order to construct the tunnel, alternating traffic with uniform traffic directors will be used. And then following construction each day, the roadway will be reopened to normal traffic, just to avoid a detour. Stage 2 of the construction will include the second half of the precast amphibian tunnels on the Waterloo Road westbound travel direction, proposed head walls, and the wildlife fencing. So from this point on, I'll turn it back over to Denise for the rest of the presentation.
Mike, if you just go back to the graphic on the fence, so the way it's curved, it's designed to capture or funnel them in both directions. The arrows are showing if they came the other way, but if they came from the opposite side, yeah, it would funnel them towards. Thanks. And Mike's showing there is with the locations of the fencing, so that as they come down the slope, it's funneling them towards the tunnels. And we could go back to any of these during the questions and answers. So environmental services and other proposals, the project is going to include federal funding, as we said, through NJDOT local aid design assistance. What's required for federal funding, the environmental document that this project was suited for, it's called the Categorical Exclusion Document, or CED, and it looks at everything from deforestation, cultural resources, ecology, threatened endangered species, which this project is about, wetlands, air and noise, hazardous waste, public reaction similar to this public meeting and our other public meeting, socioeconomics and environmental permits. We did receive approval through New Jersey Department of Transportation Bureau of Environmental Program Resources in May of 2022. So we have an approved CED document, and that's needed in order to go to construction. Highlands Preservation Area General Permit, we received our authorization for this type of project within the Highlands Preservation Area. We received that this February. NJDEP Division of Land Resource Protection General Permit number 1, that's in progress, it's under review. New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, we coordinated with SHPO through NJDOT Bureau of Environmental Program Resources, and we did receive approval on what's called an application for project authorization. And as Mike said, some of their recommendations were on the Waterloo side, where we have head walls. If they could not just be standard concrete, if they could be colored or with some type of treatment. And we did receive that feedback back in April 2022. We also have to submit to Upper Delaware Soil Conservation District, which that's ongoing. And then Sussex County road opening permit would be also a part of the construction. For cultural resources, the project area falls partially within the Waterloo Village Historic District, which in 1977 that received both New Jersey and National Register of Historic Places significance. An assessment of project effects as required by Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act was conducted for the Waterloo Village Historic District. And as we said, we did receive that approval, what's called an application for project authorization. And their recommendation was on the Waterloo side, any colored treatments for the head walls, and that's incorporated into our design. So the next step, so how do we get this project to construction? We have this public information center. We're going to be taking comments. We'll have responses to all comments, and the summary will be posted on DEP's website. We'll complete our plans and the environmental permitting. Any conditions for the permitting will be on the plans. We'll continue to coordinate with NJDOT local aid. Sussex County is in what's called District 1, and they authorize the construction fund, so we will continue to coordinate with them and then advance the construction. We're waiting for one permit to come in. As soon as that comes in, we would do our final design phase. So worst case would be if that's completed summer or early fall. We're hoping sooner than that with anticipated construction. And this is being kind of on the longer side. We hope it's not until summer 2024. And you might say, well, why would that happen? Because there's a lot of timing restrictions. There's timing restrictions, maybe we can clear trees. There's timing constrictions when we can work in the roadway. And most importantly, we don't want to be doing construction during the heavy migration season. So ideally what we want to do is to construct before that next migration. But in worst case, if that can't happen, we will have to wait to construct after it. So our goal is for that anticipated construction to start sooner so that they're in place for the next migration season. But that might not happen if we don't have all the permits and everything in place. So at this time, we're going to open it up to questions or comments. You'll be able to submit your questions and comments during this meeting. If you think about something else, we ask that you do give us your feedback within the next 2 weeks, because we would like to wrap up our comment resolution summary and post it. The link below is where it's going to be posted on DEP's website. It's under NJDEP. If you go to the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Conservation, there's a page, as we said, for Waterloo Road Amphibian Crossing Project. You could also send your comments or questions to Mackenzie Hall, biologist, endangered and non-game species program, NJDEP Fish and Wildlife, PO Box 394, Lebanon, New Jersey 08833, and our email is mackenzie.hall@dep.newjersey.gov. So Michael, read us questions unless we could see them.
Looks like we have 2 in so far.
Okay, great.
Will predator guards be used to prevent mortality from raccoons, etc.?
Mackenzie, do you want to take that?
Sorry. I'm trying to remember where my unmute button was. I actually have never heard of such a thing as predator guards with relation to a herptile tunnel, but there have been some studies and some published papers looking at that question about whether, and this honestly is our most frequently asked question about the use of tunnels for an amphibian migration is won't the predators catch on and it'll just become like a buffet at the entrances or exits.
Yeah.
And that's been largely discredited, although we will have a monitoring program in place for at least 1 full season and probably at least 2 complete migration seasons once the tunnels are built. But one of the things that eases our minds about the amphibian migration question with regard to predators is that, you know, these are animals that are moving during very inclement weather overall. So, you know, while there do tend to be some scavenger effects following amphibian migration events, especially along road segments where a lot of amphibians have been killed by cars over the course of an evening, you know, we'll regularly see opossums and fox and other animals coming and sort of picking off those carcasses. But during the actual events when the amphibians are active, those do not tend to be times when the predatory animals are also active. So we're talking about, you know, heavy rains and just conditions where it wouldn't be, you know, wouldn't be all that comfortable or conducive to most animals being active. And I feel like I had one other thing to say about that I may think of yet.
Well, Mackenzie, we could always look at if that seems to be an issue. That's something with the predator guards that we could look into. But I know a similar question came up where someone said, well, why don't the birds all just get them? And like you said, the birds aren't out at night when it's heavy rain. But that question had come up before. But thing that
Yeah.
we could look into if it does seem like it's an issue.
Yeah, and sort of a follow-up to what I said before too is that, you know, these migration events, it doesn't happen regularly enough that predators would be able to catch on. They're so abrupt and seasonal that, you know, most of the amphibian migration happens over the course of, you know, maybe 3 evenings or 4 or 5 if it's depending on the weather, but it isn't really frequent enough to form habits amongst animals, as you know, as it would in a case where maybe the animals were active through tunnel systems very regularly throughout the year.
Yeah, and like this year with the migration, with the lack of rainfall, as you said, it's not always, you know, predictable of when it's going to happen. So the smart raccoon that's waiting at the end of the tunnel also has to know the forecast.
Yeah, another thing too that I'll say is that, you know, in the interior of these tunnels, we will have natural substrate. And so a lot of times if you were to, you know, just sit in the forest and watch amphibians move on these migration events, a lot of times they're kind of weaving in and out of the leaf litter and under and over sticks and logs and cover objects, woody debris on the forest floor. And so, you know, they are very obvious when they're walking across something like a road, but inside these tunnels, which again are not meant to conduct water flow, we will have the ability to, you know, make sure that there's leaf litter and coarse woody debris and objects that will give the animals cover, both for their own security and, you know, in case that there are, you know, raccoons hanging out inside the tunnels during a rain event or something like that.
Let's see. It looks like we got 2 comments that are related to each other. It might be early in the process, but will the tunnels be monitored using will the tunnels be monitored for use post-construction? And will trail cameras be used for monitoring movements?
Yeah, I can take that one too. And we're still working on the exact methods of monitoring, and I guess more specifically the equipment that we'll use for that monitoring. It's difficult with amphibians to be able to use motion triggered cameras because cold-blooded small animals don't typically set them off. And so there have been some beam brake cameras developed that have been used in New Jersey for a couple of other projects very successfully. And so those are the type of motion, you know, sort of motion detecting cameras that we're aiming to use at Waterloo Road, although with supply chain and some of the parts and accessories needed for those, we've had trouble sourcing them from the vendor who builds them, and we heard recently that he may not be building them anymore, so we may have to pivot a little bit and figure things out. But we will, in one way, shape, or form, be monitoring if we have to, you know, slip back to something like a time step camera where, you know, we've just got cameras inside the tunnels that are set to take a picture every 30 seconds or a minute during migration events, and at other times of the year, then we'll, you know, do that or use some combination of technologies, as well as some probably combination of camera and or some live migration event visual monitoring along the fencing to see how the animals intersect with the fence, and to just, you know, confirm that when they hit it, they aren't seeing it like a barrier and turning around, that they're actually being funneled like Denise described. And that's the reason that the fencing is angled down toward the tunnels, is so that animals coming off the hillside don't see it as a perpendicular barrier, but rather they hit it and then it gently sort of directs them in the correct direction toward the tunnels that are waiting for them. And the same would be true in reverse.
So Mike, can you pull up that slide again that just shows that what Mackenzie described, where it's guiding and they're not coming up just to a wall? Yeah, but even on the upper right, so the layout of the fencing, yeah.
Like what you did before with the bubble mic, and you kind of drew the amphibian's path.
Your little spotlight.
He knows all the fun tricks.
Yeah, so, and then actually the the placement of the fencing was very selective, where we went out on the site with Mackenzie and we walked it to see where it's best to place the fencing to limit tree clearing or anything like that. As Mike said, these tunnels go underneath the roadway, so we obviously have some grading and some clearing at the entrances. And one thing that I didn't mention, Mackenzie said that the original grant was for $503,000. Obviously, costs have gone up and we have wider tunnels, so they did request additional funding from New Jersey Division of Local Aid for additional federal funding, and that request was granted. So we got additional funding of $327,000. So the total is up to $830,000.
Okay, let's see, another couple of comments came in. Is there planned regular maintenance of storm grates for water runoff so they don't clog?
Yeah, so the placement, we're not collecting runoff and directing it through these tunnels. And I don't know if Fred wants to talk a little bit more about that, but we're very careful not to do that. We don't want to do that for a number of reasons. So the way that the grading is around the tunnels is to avoid that runoff. And if you're just saying where it's not an open grate, the whole location, and Mike, maybe you could show where we show the cross section, where there's what Mike described as an E inlet, is the inlet without a curb piece. Those are just on the end. So it's not an open grate like other locations where it's like what's called like a trench drain. It's not that type. So I think what they're saying is if leaf litter or anything collects on that grate, is there maintenance? I guess similar to Mackenzie, how there would be other maintenance in the tunnel, they would do that. But I just wanted the attendee I wanted it to be clear that this isn't an open grate across the whole roadway. It's just at those inlet locations.
Yeah, and definitely since the project is situated within a forest on both sides, there will be some leaf litter to contend with over time that will probably settle into these lower areas. One of the steps that we had to take a while back was to develop a installation and long-term monitoring or long-term maintenance agreement with Sussex County, and that gives us annual, sort of the agreement gives us annual permission to go and inspect the system, make sure that, trees or branches haven't collapsed sections of the fence, and that the entrances to the tunnels themselves haven't clogged or gotten too, full of leaves or other debris, and to make any modifications or repairs that are needed. Similarly, we're going through the same process right now between New Jersey Fish and Wildlife and sort of our sister agency at state parks, forests, and historic sites to have a long-term maintenance plan with them that sort of details who's responsible for what and gives us the access to make repairs and modifications as needed.
Okay, looks like 2 more comments came up so far. Thanks for a great project and presentation. How will the staging of the tunnel work with only half being completed? Will it be blocked off until completed? I believe that's a question about staging.
So they're not talking about the roadway, they're talking about for the amphibians. I think that's what they're saying. So
how will the staging of this tunnel work only half being completed? So yeah, it seems like, yeah, right now we're anticipating constructing 1/2 of the tunnels using precast concrete. So it should be in the ground pretty quickly. And then the contractor will come next, build the other half, and then open everything up once everything's installed.
And the timing of it, as we said, that's why when you look at the construction schedule, we don't want to be working out there during the migration season. So it's going to be either, ideally it would be before it so we could capture another crossing, but if not, it'll be before or after. It will not be during migration. So I think that question was with respect to the amphibians, like what would happen if they're funneled in and you don't have the rest of the tunnel yet, but
Yeah, they'll probably block the entrance off if that's the case.
yeah.
And I'll add to that just because we know that there are a lot of snakes in the area, and there
Yeah,
have
the
been
monitors.
also venomous snakes that have, since we initiated the project, that have been discovered in the area and even killed on the road nearby the project area. And so if the project construction is to happen during the snake active season, we are required to have a venomous snake, a credentialed venomous snake monitor on site during all construction related activities. And so any animals that sort of errantly wander into the area would be identified and assisted aside.
Let's see. One last comment. No question, just comment. Thank you, exclamation point. As someone who has supported this project for near a decade, it has been a process, but I can't wait to see it completed. Thanks, Mackenzie, and having worked with Denise on a major project in Byram in the past, having her heading this up for the construction side, I know the critters are in good hands. I'll be sending a full comment letter, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That
we
must be
appreciate
Scott.
that. Thanks. Yeah, last time it was moving vehicles and Fred was involved too, so it was moving vehicles and now we're moving in amphibians.
And we really appreciate all of your support as well.
I think that's about it for the comments so far.
Okay, so we're gonna stay on if you have any comments or questions. And I guess just with the last attendee's comment on, why it takes so long. So the date when we say 2016, that's when the grant application was completed. So that date sticks with the project. And sometimes it's unfortunate because it's a little bit misleading. So there was an application, they're competitive grants, they're compared, they're rated. Then the grant was awarded and, design didn't start till much after that. We had the pandemic. There was a lot of approvals on here, including environmental approvals. Even though it's an environmental project, there are a lot of environmental approvals associated with it. And then just federal funding. So we have to follow the federal funding process. But it doesn't mean that we hit the ground running in 2016. So that sometimes is misleading.
And I actually just pulled up the DEP's website where the previous PIC's presentation can be found, along with
Okay.
the page that you guys set up for the comments.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so what Mike's showing is how you can, after the meeting, if you think of anything else or you have a question, you could either email Mackenzie or you could go right to the site and include it. And what we will be adding to the site, give us, I guess, a few days. If we get it tomorrow, it'll be great. If IT at DEP could upload it, we will have the video presentation, we'll have the plans and this PowerPoint will also be on the site. So if you look tomorrow, you don't see it yet, check early next week. So Mike, I see two people have unanswered questions, or I don't know if it's just on my end, if it's showing up.
Oh, it shows whenever I receive
Okay.
a question, it shows as basically someone raising a hand.
Okay. All right, great.
Yeah, I believe we covered everyone.
All right. If we didn't cover you or if we need to make anything clearer, just let us know. And Mike, I think I saw that we didn't have anyone else log on. If I'm wrong, if there was someone who logged on and we were halfway through our presentation, I guess you could let us know. If not, we will repeat it. If needed, we'll probably give it up till 7 o'clock.
It looks like someone commented saying thank you and good night, and then they logged off.
Okay.
Let's see. Someone said, thanks for this presentation. Great project. And I believe it might have been your friend, Kathy.
Oh, great. Thank you, Kathy.
If anyone's wondering why we don't just close it, because if this was an in-person public information center, we would have been there between 6 and 8 for, time for people to come when it's convenient for them. So that's why we'll stay on till 8 o'clock. If more new people log on, we will repeat the presentation. If we do not need to do that, we won't. And if you go and view the videotape on DEP's website after this, and you see that it's clipped, that it's because of that. We'll clip out while there isn't anything going on.
Someone commented, thanks so much, Mackenzie and Denise. I'm excited about this project and grateful for all your hard work.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And there's a team with us, including especially Mike and Fred as well too. So we'll extend that to them. Thank you.
As well as most of the people who are on the call. Yeah.
Oh, we probably have a lot of the rescuers,
Yep.
the volunteers who have been rescuing them.
And a couple coordinators too.
Okay, great.
It is funny you brought up East Brunswick, by the way, because I live down here. And I think I've been in that detour when the amphibian crossings go on.
Oh, really?
Oh, Mike, you should have went and checked them out.
Like, what's going on here? You've never walked through the detour to see the migration going on?
Next
I
year.
should have. No.
Yeah, next year.
around the
Yeah,
block
they
for
do it
me.
every year. It's been a really long running project. I think probably like 20 years or more. They've been doing it.
But maybe they don't advertise that so that people don't do that, you know.
They
wanna-
do actually. I think
do?
it's almost encouraged to have people
Oh,
come
okay.
and learn about it. They at least used to have a whole website on the East Brunswick Environmental Commission page that had like a countdown till migration, and they would announce when a closure was happening. And yeah, sometimes they get a whole crowd of people down there.
Well, that's good. Then they trust that the community isn't going to try to capture one and make it a pet or something. Maybe they have monitors to prevent that.
Yeah, I think they do try to keep a presence, but yeah, that's always part of the risk, right? Making people know about something special.
Yeah.
We got a comment in. On behalf of the Byram Environmental Commission, we thank you for the presentation and all your efforts on this project. If you need our support at any point, please, we would be happy to help.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, and we had coordinated with Byram, just even when we're coordinating this presentation or any of the permits, we need information on property owners and whatnot. So we appreciate that from the Environmental Commission as well.
Yeah, and when we were first writing up, trying to get to the stage of even proposing the project, Byram was such a great partner, and the Environmental Commission in particular was so supportive and wrote a letter of support that went along with our application package, and things like that go a long way. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate comments. If you have questions or comments after this meeting, we'll be taking comments through Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Please use the contact information below. Mackenzie Hall, her email is mackenzie.hall@dep.newjersey.gov. You can email her. As well, if you go to DEP's website under New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Conservation, the link is there, Waterloo Road Amphibian Crossing Project. There is a page where you could submit comments as well. You could also go to that page to see this recording, the PowerPoint itself, and we will post the final comments and responses as well. Once again, thank you very much.